All right, welcome folks to Last Week I Learned. This week I'm recording from Fishers, Indiana, where I'm from, and right in front of a bunch of construction for a new city hall, apparently. Good work, fun stuff. But I'm outside, so hopefully the audio quality is good. My friend helped me discover that Adobe has a free cleanup tool for podcasts, so I'm going to try that, and hopefully that improves audio quality. But without further ado, let's dive into 5 articles and an idea. All right, the first one, 5 rucking challenges. I'm throwing this in here because from what I'm reading and hearing, rucking is a really great way to improve your health. And it's just a fancy way of walking with weight on your back, which just means I walk around with a backpack. I don't know. It's kind of lazy of me because this is what I do anyway, but apparently it's good for you. So I'm including it here, and I think I'm always on the lookout for easy ways to be a little bit healthier, and this feels like one of them. So it talks about really extreme examples, which I thought were kind of fun because they're historical, but easy rucking is possible too, and that's what I do. That's what I'm doing now. I have a backpack with a laptop, and an iPad, and a bunch of clothes in it, and that counts for me. So little way to improve your health. I am into it. All right, next up, pricey pixels. I love the analogy in this. I'm always trying to understand AI at a higher level, outside of the technical nitty-gritty and the hype. And this newsletter did it for me. So here's the quote. Using AI to summarize an email is like getting a Lamborghini to deliver a pizza. And I think we're kind of in the Uber stage of AI right now, where it's artificially cheap, right? And companies like OpenAI and Microsoft are heavily subsidizing our use of AI, and it's powerful. It's great, just like Uber was great. But it will catch up with us, and the cost may not scale. So I think at some point we're going to see kind of a pullback in AI and kind of a more judicious use of it because of cost constraints. Everyone's using it to try it out now, but I think this is going to get pricier. And eventually, the cost will come down, especially as folks like OpenAI are investing in building their own chips, and Microsoft's doing the same, and so is Amazon. So this will get cheaper, but I think for a little bit here, it'll get more expensive. And I think these timescales can be deceptive, right? Because I think Uber is kind of this progression towards autonomous driving, in my opinion. It's this move from, you have one car, one person, then you have a taxi, and then you have, this more dynamic system that's moving cars around. Like, Uber is basically a system for autonomous driving with drivers included. And if you take the driver out, then you have the system. And I think kind of we're at this stage with AI where eventually we're going to get to the point where AI is going to be taking actions on our behalf. And we're still working towards that. Anyhow, those are far afield thoughts, but this is a cool article. I think that insight is worth reading it for, is just understanding where we're at in the process. All right, next up. I was born in Odessa, Ukraine, is the title of this article. That was not me. It's the title. I love being out of sync with the news cycle. And the news cycle is fast, real life is slow, and wars are slow. And, I think one of the things I really missed is this war's been going on since 2014. I think it never really stopped. And so I think this is going to be long and drawn out. And I think the more we can read first-person perspectives and understand what's going on, the better empathy we can have, the more we can understand this wonderful culture that exists in Ukraine. So I found this really interesting. I really liked this quote. It's gotten me thinking. He says, "My dad often reminds me that Americans don't understand freedom because it was all we know." Like David Foster Wallace's speech about the 2 fish where the one asks the other, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the other fish says, "What the hell is water?" I don't know. I think it's a really interesting point. And I think I am often somewhat critical of America and forget to, I guess the spirit of Thanksgiving, forget to give thanks. So interesting and helpful article. Next up, taste, conviction, and Elon Musk. I love data. I love thinking about stats, but there are real limits to it. And this article talks about it, I think, in a really compelling way. This is kind of in this broader push to, well, you'll read about this next week, but bring back uniqueness, this one-of-a-kindness, and taste in general to software and to, the web world. And I think it's really compelling. I love this startup is Sublime. The founder, I've met a couple times and really enjoy them. They're really sharp and have great thoughts on this. And so I'm just going to read their quick quote. And it says, I'm thinking about how A/B tests are a kind of mental laziness. You can't A/B test your way into building Tesla. I'm thinking about Linear, a product I love and use every day, whose founder recently said they rely on taste and opinions to make decisions. Reminds me a lot of the shape-up methodology from Basecamp, which I love. I think the way I think about this is A/B testing and optimizing in general is great for local optimization. So I think about this like, if you're trying to find the biggest hill near you, you use A/B testing. But if you're trying to find a mountain or the sea or something incredibly different and unique, you can't use A/B testing. You have to explore, and that's a more open-ended process. And so I think we want to be thoughtful about, are we trying to find a hill or something completely new? And that kind of determines the tool you use, whether that's A/B testing or something more exploratory. All right, next up, why mobile apps are slow. This is very indulgent. It's very technical. It's also out of date. I mean, those are three things I love. But this is really fascinating about why web browsers are slow on phones and why phones are slow in general. I think sometimes I take for granted how magical it is that I have a computer in my palm, and I forget all the incredible trade-offs that have to happen to make this a thing. And the web browser on a phone is one of those trade-offs, the real victim. And I don't know that we notice it all the time because now a lot of things are optimized for mobile. But when this article was written in 2013, things were not optimized for mobile. And it's much more obvious when you see that and try to understand it. So I also think selling my computer has made me more aware of the limitations of mobile and tablet, right? I take a lot for granted on my laptop, and it's really hard to replicate on a phone or a tablet. So that is it for the articles. And then my idea of the week, it's titled When Inspiration Strikes. And I've been thinking about this a lot of how do I write? When do I write? I'm still working it out. For some reason, something I've noticed is when I write in the morning, I tend to journal. When I write in the afternoon, I tend to write substantive articles. So I might be changing the way I write as a result of that. I used to write all in the afternoon, and I wrote a lot more thoughtful stuff, and I've switched to writing in the mornings, and I've written a lot more journals. So that's part of it, is trying to think about when this happens. But something that's always really caught my mind is I remember listening to a podcast with Adam Grant. I forget which one it was. And he said when he has inspiration, he actually cancels all of his meetings and writes. And because his theory is that inspiration is finite and uncontrollable kind of. And I don't know how this would align with Cal Newport's deep work. I think it would align somewhat. He's talking, I guess deep work comes in moments. I'm not sure what to think about this, because I think more recently I've thought about creativity as kind of like a grindstone, right? You just keep coming back to the well, and eventually you find water. But I don't know, reading and thinking about this, I might be wrong. I was listening to Morgan Housel on the Tim Ferriss Show. He read a great book about money, and he's just releasing another one. And he talked about how when he gets an idea, he sits down and writes about it immediately wherever he is. And I'm trying to copy it. I got to say it's effective. Normally what I would do is I'd have a writing idea, and I would make a note of it. I'd make a reminder to look at it later. And more, I'm just sitting down and writing on my phone, which is less than ideal, but it gets the idea out, and the quality is so much better. And what I found is when I have a reminder to do it, I never, ever do it again, because the moment is gone. So I don't know. I'd love to hear people's thoughts on this, how you approach it if you write a lot, whether for work or for fun. I'd love to hear how you do this, or I guess in any endeavor. If you have a startup idea, do you sit down and start working on it? Yeah, I'm kind of stumped on this one, so let me know what you think. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a happy Thanksgiving.